This is Ling Chi, brush painting for beginners. Today we're going to do a very beginner subject on ink only. I'm going to take some time to show you how to practice, as well as how to prepare your equipment, how to acquire your equipment. The first subject in brush painting is orchid. It's a grass orchid. And as I demo the subject, I will talk about the technique on the way. But let's talk about equipment first. The number one equipment is the brush. You can use any of the brush that I show it to you for this subject. You only need one brush. And what usually they call wolf hair brush, and actually it's a weasel. It's a bouncy hair. And over here, I got three. They can all do a good job. The small one called Orchid, Happy Dot Hair. And then the second one is known for doing the subject Orchid Bamboo Brush. This one is a small one. And then the last one is Perfect Gentleman. And the reason called Perfect Gentleman is this is the brush to paint 4 gentlemen. So, which is the beginner subject to train for this particular art. And the paper I'm using today is a premium double shone. It's what they call raw paper, unsized, but double layer to help beginners the absorbency. Don't try to start using newsprint, because if you don't get the right paper, you not only cheat yourself out of learning the proper technique as well as a good experience. So a good paper is very important because that's how you achieve the skill, the gradation of the ink. And then the last one is the ink. This is our best bottle ink from Japan. Has good gradation for the light to dark. And there's a lot of ink out there. Sometimes it's very black, some of them is very black, but very one tone. You can get from light to dark. And then some of them are very sooty. None of those ink are going to achieve what you try to achieve. And then I have a dish here, and I have a slate and ink stick. This is an optional, and I'll talk about how do I use this in the later on when I'm doing the subject. So this is the demo I'm going to do. And this is Ning Chi's instructional guide, gold edition. I would say it's the Bible for this particular art. It tells you all the nitty-gritty, what you need to learn this particular art. So the first chapter is on orchid. And we will follow his book to show you the demonstration on the very simple composition that in the later on the pages, there are going to be a lot of other variations. If you are interested, you can acquire this book. This is the leaves. And this is flower. And this is variation of all the flowers. And it motivated us to do this subject for you is because we got a phone call from a young man who is trying to learn this particular art. Is frustrated because he was having trouble to get gradation of the ink, the petal, just like the book. And I have to say, on the book that you saw is a perfect gradation from dark ink to light ink. It doesn't always happen. He must have done hundreds in order to pick the right one. And I'm going to show you as I practice, how you practice. You're going to see me also struggle with the right gradation as I'm doing it when it's not right. And I'm going to tell you, you just have to do it over and over again to get what you want. And then first, I'm going to pour some best bottle ink out. And then in this case, I have the ink in a dish and I tilt it like this. Why I tilt it like this is because when I load, I won't load too much ink on the brush. The other way I can do it is that I actually pour some ink in this slate, which traditionally they just use water to grind the ink, but for us to get a speedy process, we started with the bottle ink already, and then we use the ink stick to grind the ink. By the way, the stone itself is just used as a base. All the ink is coming from this stick. So I'm going to grind it until to a very thick consistency. So whether you tilt the dish this way or you grind the ink to a thick consistency, they all would work for that, what we want to do. So then I'm tilting this to show you that what I can get out of it. I'm not too sure right now either. So the first one, I wet my brush and I stroke it. This is a good brush. It's very bouncy. Give me a good tip. How do you know it's a good brush? If you flat your brush out, the hair has an even haircut. So like craft stores brush or your usually art supply stores brush, usually it's hard to get a good brush because they don't have a demand for a quality brush. They just sell, they look like an Asian brush, but there is a lot to it than just look like a brush. So I'm going to show the number one stroke. You can see it's too dark. So I'm re-wet my brush. And I'm going to try to dip it only in the tip. Let's see if I can get a better one. This is a better one. A little bit light. But let me do it again. So I continue to practice. You can see each stroke is different. When I see the ink, usually it gets too much to the stroke, that means that when I paint, the ink keep on pushing to the top. Then I re-wet the brush.
So the reason that you're tilting is you're trying to create a very, very shallow pool of ink, almost like a stain of ink, so that you don't load the ink too deep into your brush.
Right. You kind of want it to be more than a stain, because then if just like this lighter part, if I just load it here, I'm not going to be able to get the richness. It's too light. So let's try the ink stick one to see if that's better. This is much richer than what I have been able to get. So the extra step, grinding the ink in the slate, you can see that has made my ink much more, the stroke much more interesting.
So what you did was kind of a shortcut to creating a thicker, pastier ink.
Not a shortcut, but it's kind of essential, because the tilting the dish is a shortcut, but you can see the result is not as good as the grinding the ink into the thicker paste.
I mean, the shortcut part is using ink instead of water, right?
Oh yeah. You can use water, just grind it longer without the bottle ink. So this is how I would prep the first stroke. It's like an S shape. And I'm going to talk about the skill of it, the technique of it. It's like I was having a trouble to teach somebody to do this stroke is to keep the brush vertical. Somehow that the student keep on wanting to do it sideways. Then you can see when you do the sideways, then your dark part is not in the middle. So then that's when people can tell you that this technique. So and also I was teaching virtually. Sometimes the camera angle also deceiving. So hopefully everyone can show you that my brush is 90 degrees to the paper. That's very important. The whole subject of grass orchid is like to teach you that to paint the whole thing with vertical. Only the brush tip to the lighter part is the body of brush is just by adding the pressure, not laying down the pressure, which eventually that you will learn how to do that. But this particular subject is that. Too dark. So once it gets too dark, I need to rinse the whole brush off. Stroke the brush, and then start the brush. You can see the dark part is where my brush tip travels. So this is one side. And then you need to learn how to have the brush tip turning all different angles. So the other side. So the first one, my brush travels from left to the middle. Now I'm going to have the brush travel from the right to the middle, which in the right hand people is a little bit harder. And you can see now these two strokes are looking at each other. So this is the opposite. It's harder for me. So that means I need to practice more. So you need to learn both sides to have the flower looking to the left or looking to the right. Okay, so this is the number 1 stroke. Keep your brush in the middle, too dark. Okay, now I'm going to show you how do I do the flower, the first flower. So this is the stroke we are practicing. And then we're going to use a small line to make the center. And then we're going to have 2 strokes, one left to right and one right to left to hug this particular stroke. So this time it's skinnier, longer, but the same action. So they are hugging to this particular stroke. And now we're going to have a wider stroke, still skinny, from right to left. They are all looking for this particular ending. And now I want a straight, dark dot right here. That's my center. So this is, I finished the flower. So it's 1 stroke, 2 stroke, 3, 4, 5, 6 strokes. So everything, you can see that I have gradation, good from dark to light. And this is very straight. And then now I have to do stalk or stem to have the flower growing from the leaves. So this is what we call bone stroke. So I have followed this line. And I have a short stalk, and then I have a longer stalk. Then I'm going to have 2 leaves to hug this. Light pressure, add pressure, and lift, have less pressure. So this is number 1 composition I finished. And then this flower is looking to the right. So I'm going to do another one. This time I won't take as much time to talk about it. This time I'm going to have the flower looking to the left. Same stroke. Clean your brush only water only. And then I'm going to tip. So now the flower is looking to the left. Follow the center of the flower. I'm doing my 2 little bone strokes. And then side stroke. So now I have one flower looking to the right, one flower looking to the left. So now I'm finishing the flower. Now to complete this subject, we need to do the leaves. So I'm going to show you how I practice the leaves. So this page 25 show you how do I practice the leaves. So the first stroke, from the roots, a little bit leaning to the left. Start with the light pressure. And I add additional flesh and lift. The second stroke, from the roots to the right. Light pressure, left pressure. And then I have now make a V shape. Now, a lot of times you talk about phoenix eyes. That's where I create a phoenix eyes. So this time, I'm going to have my pressure changes. So this stroke a little bit advanced than the first 2 strokes. The first stroke is light, heavy, light pressure. Light, heavy, light pressure. This stroke, I'm going to start with light, and then I increase my pressure, and then I reduce my pressure, and I increase my pressure. So this is how I practice. So this stroke is a little bit harder to show it again. So it's like start with light pressure, add pressure, light pressure, add pressure. But you can see that the whole time I don't tilt my brush. My brush always looking the center of the paper. The brush tip is in the center of the paper. All right, and then now we're going to put it together. So this is the subject we're going to try to do today. So we're going to do the flower first. This one has 2 flowers side together lapping. So we're only doing this one flower. So this is an important book. If you want to really study this particular art, Ningye's art instructional guide gold edition, which we just published at the end of 2022. Very updated. So I clean my brush completely, and then I use the tip I'm leaving longer leaves going this way, so I'm only using 1/3 the space to the right. All right, and then I follow the center of this flower, and I'm doing a 2 tiny bone stroke. And then I'm using the dark ink for the dot. So this is my flower already. So then I'm going to do 2 leaves to support this flower. So again, the longer leaves, I'm going to reduce the pressure twice. The shorter leaves only reduce the pressure once. So I start with light pressure from the bottom, and then I add additional pressure, and then on this other side is the longer leaves. So it's going to marry to each other. So I'm doing light, more light. All right, and then I'm going to add 2 leaves on the both side. So this time, this particular leaves is from the top to the bottom. So I do light, heavy, light. And then this one. So you can see I'm always doing the V shape. I never do like a highway parallel. So then I'm starting here from so this I finished my composition. So this one is not perfect because it's too wet. I'll wait a little bit before I do the second one.